So we don't actually have any structure or plan to this, as far as I know, which means we could
I received 10 questions so.
Yeah, so I wrote up a couple of topics that I'd be happy to chat about. I guess we could get going with those. You're also welcome to, you saw some of the talk minus slides, so you're welcome to jump in with whatever topics you wanted to talk about.
Perfect.
Okay, I'll begin with the ones that I was pondering. So you mentioned privacy a lot, a couple of, at the cypherpunk thing, and you've been doing blog posts and so on. Yay, privacy, but also, as I was just saying, Apple has their own notion of privacy, so we need to be careful what we really mean by it. But also, the Ethereum world a few years ago wasn't known as the privacy blockchain. So it seems that we've gotten a lot of momentum with you saying privacy, privacy, privacy. How are we doing in practice at that, at the users actually being able, the average users of the Ethereum world having that?
So I think the relationship between what today gets called the crypto space, sometimes to the chagrin of cryptographers, and the privacy world is this very interesting thing, right? Because if you look at the histories of cryptocurrency, even like as given by Bitcoin people, the very first cryptocurrency project was David Chaum's eCash in 1982, and eCash, it did not have decentralization. It was fully reliant on a server, but it did have privacy, right? And then fast forward 27 years, and we have Bitcoin, and Bitcoin somehow has decentralization, but it does not have privacy. And that was an interesting shift that happened, right? And I could think about the reasons why it happened, right? But one of the big limitations that we had with technology at the time was like we had no way to get decentralization and privacy at the same time, right? Chaumian blinding depends on having a server in the middle. And one of the big things that happened since then, of course, is the rise of zero-knowledge proofs. And zero-knowledge proofs theoretically are a thing that academics have been talking about since the 1980s, but like really getting them to production quality and to the point where they're powerful enough that they can prove these really sophisticated statements, like really that started with, I think, Zcash launching in 2016, right? And this was this like technological movements that, and actually I think a lot of Ethereum people have been very involved in, like since the beginning. Even back in 2021, the PSE team at the foundation had been working on like CIRCOM, a lot of other ZK snark tooling. Remember that the level of usability of all of that technology, both for users and for developers, it's just been on this like big upward curve since then, right? So, like, who here has used Zcash back in 2017? So remember back then, it took like 2 minutes on a laptop to generate the proof for a transaction, right? Then in 2021, it was down to a few seconds. And back then, though, you still needed to be a cryptographer to make your own protocol. And then now in 2024 and 2025, generating a proof on a computer is less than 1 second. And we have tools like CIRCOM. And so like it's within reach of any developer here to build a privacy solution, right? And using zero-knowledge proofs. And so there's been this like big shift in what can be done and how easy it is to do a lot of things. And at the same time, I think also the blockchain like space has been like having this kind of moral evolution where it really started off as this thing. You have Bitcoin trying to like free us from dependence on powerful governments and banks, and then the space like shifted over to like basically at best trading $3 million monkeys, and at worst like losing like some number of billions of dollars to exchanges being insolvent. And I think a lot of people, like even in the Ethereum world, they've been asking themselves the question of like, what is the thing that both is not the traditional centralized world and also is not, is not, some of the excesses that the blockchain world has seen. And I think for a lot of people, privacy really has come out as this really leading answer. And so I've seen a lot of excitement from all kinds of people in the Ethereum ecosystem of really building genuine privacy, and not just Apple-style privacy, but privacy where you are private from everyone, including the service provider as well, and really going deep. And I think it's, from my view, it's been a really a positive change, and something that I'm looking forward to seeing progress further.
If you could have it all, what does that look like? Does every Ethereum user have privacy for every interaction? Do all the other blockchains do that too? Once this is all over, if we are wildly successful, how far do we go?
Yeah, so in the near term, right, we just announced the Kohaku project, and that's a wallet level thing, right? Basically, at the wallet level, making private transactions be something that, from a user experience perspective, looks and feels the same as any other type of transaction. And so, at least sending coins around is something that can be private by default, right? And then, can we go further? I think we would love to go further. There's obviously a lot of technical challenges in going further. There's also a lot of these questions around if you want to prove that you're not a bad actor, then either because you have a regulatory need, or because we actually don't want to empower countries like North Korea with to oppress their people, and other countries with billions of dollars. Then one of the things with zero knowledge proofs is it lets you actually do things like proving my coins could come from anywhere, but they don't come from one of those hacks that gave North Korea $2 billion, and that's a new capability, right? But then there's these interesting philosophical, ethical, other kinds of questions of what is the version of that if any that we do actually wants to use and promote. And I think once you get past basic payments, once you get into some of this more general purpose stuff, right, then those questions tend to come up more. Then once you get into general purpose applications, there's things where you just fundamentally have to make some information transparent because it's just inherent to the functioning of the thing, right? If you have a financial market, you want people to be able to see what the current price is, right? And there's a lot of ways in which more transparency in financial markets is better, right? And the more you get into application-specific things, the more you get general purpose, the more you actually have a lot of choices, right? And so, if we're talking about should paying for a coffee and donating to charities be fully private, answer is unconditional yes. Racing ahead, making that happen as much as possible. Once you get into some of these bigger and deeper things, I think with what we call programmable cryptography, things like these general purpose ZK proofs, we've unlocked this big new type of capability, and I think we're still really thinking and exploring about what are the right ways to apply that to each individual situation.
Sounds good. So taking a step towards the deeper things, the social side of things, one of the things that I've been wrestling with here at the DevConnect World, I don't know this space as well as the people who've been in the cryptocurrency space the whole time. And here we are in Argentina, which is having a big economic problem these days. And here we are with a bunch of crypto people showing up to Argentina promising to save them all with crypto. And some of them seem to mean well, but as in this space where money is involved, some of them don't. They're doing it for their own reasons. They're not doing it for Argentina's benefit. They're doing it because they want to either hype their new project, or it's the disaster capitalism thing, or something like that. So I keep finding myself in situations where folks are like, "Hey, can you come to my conference? Can you come to my party? Can I get a picture of you in front of my company logo?" And so you're in this space. You're famous in this space. I'm famous in my space. I'm trying to figure out which ones I should be endorsing and how I should be thinking about. Like, how do I think about showing up and saying, "Yeah, the Tor guy is in a photo with this company or that company"? I haven't figured out how to frame the question right. But do you have any advice for me on navigating a world that is full of people who mean well and people who mean harm, and it's hard on the surface to figure out which ones are which?
I mean, I think you're right to be cautious. There's definitely a lot of people for whom Argentina is an interchangeable narrative, and privacy is an interchangeable narrative. And if the narrative had instead been let's do crypto military tech, they would have totally done that too. Oh no, sorry. I mean, that's AI bros. But there, I don't think there is a magic one sentence formula, because it's every time it's kind of like market arbitrage, right? It's every time magic one sentence formulas exist, then by the time that formula reaches you, it's halfway there to reaching the people who are going to figure out how to adapt to it and exploit it, and make that formula no longer actually work anymore. So I think even the word cypherpunk, honestly, I think it's at least 2/3 of the way through to being gentrified at this point. So no, I think find high integrity people, and I think you can have a feeling for who the high integrity people are, and often they have eyes for more of those kinds of people as well. And be careful and go through with your own moral compass. I don't think there's a magic better solution.
Makes sense. So in terms of building community, in terms of building acceptance around the world, we heard Juan talking about the high point of US suspicion of crypto. One of the things that we've been doing in the Tor world is trying to gain allies, not just among the cypherpunk enthusiasts, but find people in law enforcement who actually turn out to be huge Tor fans, and help them be allies for us inside their organization. There was a point a while ago where I had a friend who he joined the FBI, but he was still a Tor enthusiast, and he was telling me a story of being in a meeting with Department of Justice people, where the lawyers are like, "You know what we need to do today? We need to make a law outlawing Tor. That's what's going to improve the government the most." And he was in the room and could stand up and say, "I work for the FBI. Are you trying to make my job impossible? Why would you outlaw Tor? I need this." And having him in that room meant that they didn't work on that law that day. So I've heard something about engaging with the UN to get them not just excited about, but understanding about crypto. How are you, the Ethereum community, doing at getting do you have OFAC staffers now who are "No, I'm a cryptocurrency user. The next Tornado Cash, I'm going to be a user of it, so I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen"? How do you get people in these organizations that fear you to understand?
Well, one of the nice things about the Ethereum community is that it is this very diverse community that has a lot of people who know how to make their local case in all of the situations that they're in, right? And so, in the example of OFAC, actually, Amin and the people from privacy pools, I think they've actually been doing a good job making inroads there. I think also one of our advantages has been that we're able to communicate globally and able to connect to a lot of people's desires for the future and a lot of their concerns globally. And that's something that's been, I think, really valuable, and I think that's true both at the level of institutions and at the level of like all kinds of individual people. Another thing is like the world has been going through big realignments over the last few years, right? And these realignments, there's been a lot of things that are very negative. There's also been a lot of things that are quite positive. And there's like one of the things I try to do is like to always keep an eye for the kinds of people who 5 or 10 years ago would have said that blockchains and crypto are a total scam. That like now actually see that there is something like really valuable in terms of helping build a world where like people like us and them can cooperate and can do things like without being dependent on a very small number of centralized actors. So and some of that has been in very surprising places. Actually, I wanted to ask you, since I think you've been very deep in like this other decentralization world that we've known about the existence of for a long time. I feel like I've always considered myself part of this world. Like I used Tor back in the 00s. Since the 00s, I've used Linux since the 00s. Like, what do you think are kind of the biggest sources of like some of the distance and kind of disagreement that we've seen between the crypto world and this other decentralization world, and what are like things that we can do to bridge that more?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because you're right that a lot of the decentralized peer-to-peer, whatever the words are, folks look at the DeFi world and think, wait a minute, you've added money into this, and adding money into this is what is ruining it, is what is making it a different sort of community than the one that we want to be part of or that we think we're part of. So, and part of that is it's going to happen because because the systems that are being built in the cryptocurrency world are based on capitalism as the building block, are based on money is the resource that we will declare as scarce, and therefore you can't attack the system unless you have too much of it, and so on. So I think there's definitely a clash between the altruism side of things, I'm building this I'm part of the free software community and I write free software to give it to my friends, the other free software people, and they write free software and they give it to me, and we're all a happy community, and Microsoft and other huge companies are the ones doing it wrong, and we'll ignore them as best we can. So part of it is a cultural clash, I think, where it depends what building blocks you want to build on, and this is part of what I've been finding really fascinating in the Ethereum and Tor space, where Ethereum has a mechanism that incentivizes people to do what it wants. This is the whole blockchain, get everybody steering in the same direction, in a way that reproducing that on like a privacy network, having a mechanism to steer everybody the way you want that enforces it using money and monetary incentives isn't as straightforward. And maybe nobody's invented the right one yet, or maybe it's a fundamentally different space and blockchains don't actually solve every problem in the world. So it's that's something that I'm certainly thinking about a lot. And that leads into the Tor community is based on altruism. It's based on people who have extra resources. Like I'm an operator at the university and I'm in charge of maintaining the network, and of course I've got an extra rack and the bandwidth is already free and I've got these extra computers, so of course I'll set up a Tor relay. I don't have to pay much to do that. The payment is in my energy and my attention. And that altruism-based world produces, I think, a stronger Tor network, but a less scalable Tor network. And you in the Ethereum space have shown once you bring in the money incentives, then more people want to show up and get the money out of it. So there are pluses and minuses to whether you have a blockchain and whether you have capitalism-oriented incentives.
That's interesting. I mean, so within the crypto world, there's definitely people who actually think that Ethereum is like the corner that is communist and demands everyone be altruist all the time. So it's sometimes funny to, I can get kind of whacked from both sides on this. Yeah. Actually, one other kind of interesting thing, right, is that, I think we in the Ethereum community, and also a lot of people in the Bitcoin community have even been saying this much longer than we have, right, that, blockchains are far from the only tool. And I actually think this mainstreaming of zero knowledge proofs has really made that much clearer, right? Because there's other tools that are really powerful tools, right? And they're usable both in combination with blockchains and individually. So actually, one fun thing that we that we've been working on. This is some people who are kind of close to the Ethereum Foundation. So this is an air quality monitor, right? So it tells you the 1200 ppm, the CO2 level, which is like actually higher than we would like. So this room really should have more air filters. You have PM 2.5, various other things, and there's actually a lot of good science, right, that shows that air is like the most underexplored frontier of public health, right? Our bodies, our metabolism consumes 6 molecules of O2 for every molecule of glucose, and at the same time it's invisible, right? And one of the challenges, though, of course, is like on the one side, knowing much more about our air is super important for our health, in the same way that basically all modern health is data driven. But on the other hand, like this CO2 number, it's like a friggin' scary indicator, right? So I'm sure people here have seen the studies that like you could basically turn Wi-Fi hotspots into surveillance cameras. Well, CO2 monitors too, right? So if you have just that one number, how much the CO2 there is in a room, then you can determine when that room is occupied, roughly how many people are in that room, when people come in that room, when people leave that room, when people engage in certain kinds of physical activities in that room. And so it's pretty scary, right? And so one of the things that we've been working on here is that it's possible to put cryptography into these things. Like basically you can take a combination of zero knowledge proofs and FHE, and you can collect that, actually also differential privacy, like basically, standard kinds of noising techniques. You can take that data and you can make that data usable for a lot of basically science, understanding where the air quality issues are without actually infringing on the privacy of any one individual, right? And this is like something that's there are some blockchain tie-ins as well, right? So if you want to incentivize people to provide data, this is something that people are thinking of doing, right? But the real hero here is the programmable cryptography, right? And this is something that a lot of people in our community are excited about, and also it's already been quite effective as a bridge, right? Because a lot of people care about health, people care about privacy, and these things do matter to a lot of people, right? So this kind of space, I think, embracing the physical world, embracing the hardware more. That's also been one of our themes. So that's been something that's really growing as well. One more question for you. I'm curious, because I feel like lots of people have come to you with the idea that we should improve Tor by monetizing relays and exit
You know what you
nodes.
need? You need a token.
Yes. Well, what have your views been on like some of these proposals over the years, and like the downsides, basically, like how much of that is kind of culture and vibes, how much of that is like no, like this would like actually technically break things, like how do you see that whole question?
Yeah, so there are two pieces to why we haven't done a token yet. One of them is it goes back to the mechanism design. In the blockchain world, there's a pretty clear like structure that steers people in the right direction. And in the Tor anonymity world, what are you actually trying to incentivize? You want to get more people to run relays, and you want them to provide more bandwidth, and you want them to do it in a diverse set of locations around the world. But how do you actually verify the ground truth on this? In the current Tor setup, you tell the world how much bandwidth you seem to have, and we do some spot checking, but mostly we believe you because it's just for load balancing. Whereas if it were for how much payout you get, then people would show up and try to game the system more, and we'd have to have a much more robust bandwidth measurement thing, and then the attacks would show up where they're like, I'm spinning my wheels using bandwidth and you should pay me for that, even though no actual users used it. And from a location diversity perspective, you use what, GeoIP databases? GeoIP databases are garbage. So we need some ground truth that's actually secure enough to survive the new incentive structure where more people are trying to game it because they're trying to make more money. So that's the technical side of things. But also last night I was talking to a friend who used to have a privacy system and added a token to it and was telling me about how it completely ruined the community and the ecosystem because as they were doing their token launch, like 10,000 new people showed up, all being shark scammers and being like, woo, new coin. And afterwards, the people who used to be there submitting patches as volunteers are long gone. So I guess the bigger answer is all the like Silicon Valley startup people keep coming to me being like, I have an idea. So it's a great idea, and 5% chance your graph's going to look like this, and 95% chance you're going to be gone next week. So, and you should do it because that's how startups work, like the fail fast and all of that. And in my world, the world without something like Tor is worse off. There's only one. If we lose it, then we don't have it anymore. So I've been working really carefully to scale linearly, not to bet it all on something that either turns us into the next unicorn or more likely makes us go away. So that's more of a mindset vibe thing than a technical reasoning. And I mean, sure, I come from the free software community and the cypherpunk community, not the Silicon Valley startup world, where we don't have venture capital people. Our goal is to build a tool that actually keeps actual users safe in whatever vulnerable situations they're in. So because we're in nonprofit land, we can afford to make those choices.
Have there been any positive surprises in what kinds of people or what kinds of organizations have been helping to fund Tor recently?
Yeah, so we started off as sort of like the professor funding model where you go to the National Science Foundation or Open Technology Fund and other groups and get funding to write research papers, or maybe the funding is to write a research paper and in your spare time you also write Tor. And that scales only to a certain point. More recently, we've had some of the like foundations, like Ford Foundation and so on, finally, like they started off being scared of the internet and they're extra scared of privacy. And it took us years for them to realize that actually we're still around, we're still saying the same things we were saying. But we have some more individual donations these days that have been going. We've really been ramping that up, and part of it is going to communities like DEF CON with an F, where there are a bunch of security people who really value Tor and also have day jobs, so they're happy to chip in. Yeah. But also we've got some like rich people who are seeing why Tor is so important in the world this year, and getting those people to not just give us $20, but give us $1 million at a time is something that we need to get better at, and we're just starting to see some success at.
What do you think about physical world privacy? Like about the risk that the encryptedness of your signal over there is going to mean nothing because there's like 100 different devices here that could potentially be reading everything and potentially know exactly what you type from 3 rooms away and so on.
Yeah, that's a huge issue, and one way of framing that from the Tor side is that Tor solves only one layer of the many different layers. So I guess the best example there, years ago I was doing a training for a bunch of Vietnam activists who had gotten out of Vietnam, but they were trying to help people still in country do like human rights work. And there I was, young Roger, being like, let me tell you about PGP and off-the-record messaging and Tor. And they're like, yes, but there's a guy across the street with a parabolic microphone listening to me speak into my encrypted thing. They hear everything I say. When I go to sleep, they break into my house and they steal my laptop and they put stuff on it. Can you look at my Windows computer? And that, it's a totally different threat model for those situations. So yes, it's something that I think about a lot, not just for us white men who are doing fine, but also for the people around the world who really need safety and have real adversaries. And tools like Tor are only one layer, and some of the like physical safety layers are really hard to get right. How are we doing on time? I saw you hold up. Oh, good. We're doing great on time.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Yeah. So you mentioned a diverse set of users a while ago. It used to be that the investor finance bros didn't like the cryptocurrency stuff, and now you've got BlackRock guy going woo cryptocurrency, as I understand it. How do you navigate that? Because it seems like the finance bros, their job is to build new finance instruments, and the more complicated they can make them, the more payoff they get. And they're fascinated by Ethereum because here you are with a programmable system, so they can re-implement each of their overly complex financial instruments in your thing. And you need them as an ally because they're the ones who are going to go to the federal agencies and say, no, this is important. How do you avoid them capturing the whole thing?
Yeah, I think like as you've already said, the capitalism in crypto is the ultimate double-edged sword, right? And people with huge amounts of money doing finance, they both bring in the capital, they make numbers go up, and as much as we love to be dismissive about numbers go up, if numbers had not gone up, we would not have had the funding to develop like zero knowledge proofs and all of these other things. And then on the other side, they grow the anonymity set. And even when there's no anonymity, the metaphorical anonymity set, right? So if you're a government in some country and you see that someone has bought crypto and that someone is using crypto, like you don't immediately skip forward to like this person is doing something that must be really dangerous. You think, well, probably they are a degen, and it's basically the financial equivalent of the person looking at cat pictures on Facebook, right? But then on the other side, there's definitely a risk if that side of the community starts driving the agenda, right? And I think 2 risks, right? One is that it does drive other types of people away, and the other side is that it easily ends up leading to like the wrong kinds of choices being made on the protocol layer, right? Like Ethereum and like network could, and many networks like Ethereum do, go for 150 millisecond block times in the name of competing with TradFi, right? But the problem is if you have 150 millisecond block time, then not only does it become definitely impossible to participate through Tor, but also it becomes economically infeasible to have a node operating like realistically outside of New York, right? And it's one of these like things that's very easy to underestimate, right? Because you might do the math and you might think, well, theoretically, if you have an extra 100 milliseconds of latency, you can participate. But in reality, like if your revenue goes down by 10%, then like you're still going to get outcompeted over time, right? And and then, like, this happens at all kinds of layers of the stack, right? Like, there are people who argue that, like, most users use wallets with intermediaries, and therefore the Ethereum's account model, like, should just fully embrace being intermediary dependent, and that makes things simpler. There, like, are people, like, who argue that, like, certain forms of cryptographic security don't matter because like actually everything like runs on real world assets, right? And so like this kind of risk exists, right? The risk that if finance, like if a certain type of traditional finance becomes 90% of Ethereum, then the quote pragmatists start arguing, well, these people are 90% of your users and you should serve them, right? And I think a big part of the answer is like we need a strong core community that just says no to that, right? We need a strong core community that says, remember why we are here, and remember that people who wants to make finance fast are a dime a dozen, and there will be hundreds of projects like this, not even within the crypto space, but even the US banking system, the Chinese banking system, all kinds of banking systems. Like everyone does fast. Everyone does big. We are in the world where Saudi Arabia is going to come out with kilometer-tall skyscrapers in a couple of years. So the number of people who go fast and who go big is not in short supply. And so we in Ethereum need to focus on the things that otherwise would be in short supply, and maintaining a global, geographically decentralized, permissionless, open, and censorship-resistant system is really at the core of that. And like you need to have the the strong core community that focuses on those things. And I think doing that is one part technology, it's one part community building. And sometimes it's community building in order to build the technology, and sometimes it's even technology to show credibility that's necessary for the community building. And so those two things interrelate.
Yep. It's interesting to see the parallels there, because we in the Tor world also get pressure to make it faster, make it simpler, make it more usable. And if our goal is to have another VPN, then of course that's where we need to go. But if our goal is to actually have something that keeps the important activists safe in the important situations, then we need those other users, because you need the ordinariness. Yeah. But we're not building it for the people in Iowa who are not sure if they have a threat model. Yeah. We're building it for the people in Egypt who are very sure they have a threat model. So keeping in mind the people who really need the privacy, but knowing that you need all the rest of them in order to get there is an interesting parallel.
Yeah. In Tor, how do you think about user experience? Like, how do you think about what user experience properties are important enough that you do really have to try hard for them? Because if they don't exist, people will just give up on the thing entirely.
Yeah, so part of it is speed. And the Tor network's been doing a lot better at that in the past couple of years, in part because internet's getting faster, and we've got a bunch of nonprofit relay associations around the world who run very fast relays. And then there's a trade-off there between performance and centralization. But in terms of speed, having it be fast enough is important. And there are all these other issues in the browser layer, like making sure you don't break web pages, and making sure that destination web pages are willing to serve users who want privacy. Like there was a case a while ago where Los Angeles Times decided that their response to GDPR was don't serve any news articles to anybody outside the US. So you show up from Germany through a Tor relay, and they're like, we're very sorry you're in Europe, so fuck you. And that's not good for the experience. So how do we think through how to make these things work well? On the other hand, keeping track of So there's a story from a few years ago where one of my friends was in Iran back during the Green Revolution times, where he was doing trainings of a bunch of different tools. He was teaching activists and journalists there, how do you use Tor, how do you use open proxies, how do you use VPNs, how do you use Siphon, all these other tools. And then he realized one day that every user he had taught anything other than Tor to was now dead or in jail. And then he decided, oh my gosh, it's time to only teach Tor. So part of the thing we need to keep focused on is, like, another example, back when Egypt was doing the Arab Spring thing, there were a lot of people who were like, my government is stupid, they don't know how to look at they're not doing surveillance, they just blocked Facebook. Just give me some way to get to Facebook. And those people maybe regret the tools that they used. So our goal in Tor is to give people security by default, and if we're wrong and they didn't need it, okay. And I don't want to do it the opposite, where it turns out we're wrong and that hurts people.
Yeah. I think my view on the UX is that the thing that if you have to prioritize one thing, you prioritize reliability, right? Like, I would rather have something that has 4-second latency all the time than something that has 2-second latency 90% of the time and 2-minute latency 10% of the time. And because like that's what throws you off, right? Like, when it fails even once, often you just get into the habit of like, well, turn off this stupid thing, right? And I remember like some of the privacy tools that we have even in the Ethereum world, like that's the big hump. I remember last week I had this situation where I was like doing a private withdrawal, and then it went through this like public broadcaster network that failed about 12 times, and then eventually I figured out that I needed to connect with a VPN, and like that actually solved it. Actually, it still needs to like try stacking that on top of Tor. So no, reliability is like to me, it's like the one thing that you need to have, even if you take 100x hit on time and 100x hit on speed.
Predictability.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. How willing are you guys to do like ugly custom tricks? So like, for example, if the LA Times if for example the LA Times blocks anything outside the US, like route people through the US for that, and if like something else blocks everyone outside of Singapore, route people through Singapore for that, and like just have a hard-coded list.
Yeah, maintaining that sort of list and keeping it working and up to date and so on hasn't been a thing that we think is worthwhile, but I'm not against it in principle. It's just yet another thing that needs to be done. So we're down to 1 minute. I wanted to end with thinking through the human side of this. So we're each still doing this after however long it's been, and we could each have walked away and been happy with our previous fame or something. So I guess the question for each of us is, what keeps us going? Like what, and maybe that's equivalent to which parts of this are fun. In my case, the part that's most rewarding for me is when I go to an interesting new country and new culture, and I meet users who are whose lives are different because of my tool. And that human interaction and community building is what makes me feel like I'm actually making a difference in the world. And it doesn't have to be 10 million users. It can be like 6 users in Manila who were able to do things in their country that they wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. So it's the human element that keeps me excited. Why are you still here?
Yeah, I think for me actually, like I know for a fact that if I did not go to an in-person event for like 1.5 years, and I did read Twitter every day for 1.5 years, that combination would almost certainly lead me to like basically rage quit and retire and publish 100 tweets saying like why I think the whole crypto space is evil and deserves to burn. the in-person element, I think, it's like it's the flip side of the greater internet fuckwad theory, right? Where it's this famous meme that on the internet everyone just like becomes a 2 or 3 standard deviations worse version of themselves, and if the internet is your primary life, the kind of uplifting positive side of this is, of course, that the real world is 2 or 3 standard deviations better than what you're used to, right? And so I come to these events, or sometimes like visit particular people, particular groups, and like I see that there's a lot of people who are building things on top of Ethereum that really matter. I think it's in a lot of ways a similar kind of answer to you, Roger, right? There's people working hard on like making finance like even just basic payments and savings accessible to billions of people that would not otherwise have it. There's people who are making far more progress than I expected on like making privacy-preserving payments possible. There is even people in our ecosystem, like who have made privacy-preserving Google Docs like way better than I could have imagined. Like I've been using Fileverse for the last 1.5 years, and it's like on the cusp where it's like finally not frustrating me. And which, like, for something which is not only end-to-end encrypted, but also passes the walk-away test, is like actually a really high bar to pass. There's just people who are continuing to, who believe in the underlying goals of Ethereum, who see how the underlying goals of Ethereum in the current world are more and more relevant than before, and who continue to be using like taking all of the things that we're building and like really applying that and pushing things to the next step, and building all of these projects that actually bring like freedom and openness to the masses, and that excites me.
Did the COVID Did the COVID shutdown, how much did the COVID shutdowns disrupt the seeing the humans and remembering that there are humans here? From my perspective, I used to go to a bunch of conferences, meet a bunch of users, and then suddenly years of not doing that. And I'm like, answering emails sucks. So how was that for you?
I think it's a difficult one to answer, right? Because the biggest effect of all of these things is always indirect, right? It's not just about the effect of you interacting with people less. It's also the effect of everyone that you interact with being a person that's interacted with people less. And I do feel like the internet has kind of, and probably also the crypto world sort of turns darker in a lasting way in that kind of 2020 to 2021 like time span, and we keep doing our best to work hard to reverse that, and then of course it's hard to disentangle like how much of that is COVID versus how much of that is just the ongoing march of social media being more and more omnipresent and primary, and how much of that is like the difference between a young ecosystem and a more mature one. So it's definitely a thing. It's it definitely happened. On the flip side, of course, COVID was great for a lot of people's productivity. Quite possibly the merge would have happened, in 2023 instead of 22. But and then the other thing that it's disrupted, right, is that one of the things I really value about Ethereum is how it's a global community. And like sometimes people say like, oh, why have this conference culture? Why go around on planes? Why, like lose all of this productivity? And like, what is the value of this? And for me, part of the answer is like, that is the thing that enables us to have a cohesive community that is not just completely centered around everyone being in New York and San Francisco. Like, basically, how do you have a community that's actually that's actually global and that does not privilege one place over all of the others, right? And you can see how AI has taken the opposite choice, and AI is incredibly concentrated for that exact reason, right? That is, of course, COVID in its prevented in-person interaction, not just between cities but also within a city, but it's making sure that we continue talking to each other, I think, is for me it's definitely a priority.
Okay, we are out of time. Thank you for your attention. And if you want to see the next episode of the Roger and Vitalik Show, we're doing this again on Friday during the Privacy Stack interactions. So I'm going to hang out with my bright green shirt for afterwards and talk, but David has the next session, which includes me and other folks. So I'm going to hand the microphone to David.
Thank you.
Thank you.